In this video, we talk about the force velocity curve and how to apply it to your rugby strength and conditioning program.
Hi guys, I'm Jamie Bain from RugbyRenegade.com, where we help rugby players get stronger, fitter, faster and stay injury free so they can dominate their opposition on the rugby field. Today's video we're going to talk about the force velocity curve, what it is, why it's an important concept for you to understand, and how to train to get more powerful and explosive for rugby. So let's have a look at it. First you need to understand what the force velocity curve is. On this axis you've got force, on this you've got velocity, and basically the curve shows an inverse relationship between force and velocity. So at this part of the curve you've got high force, low velocity, and as you move down, force decreases but velocity increases. So why is that important to understand? Well, the whole goal of training S&C for rugby is to shift that curve to the right, which means at every point on the curve you're producing more force but quicker. So obviously you can see in a game it's going to help you produce more force, more impacts and collisions, and to do it quicker to beat your opposition there. Okay, so next question then is, how do we shift that curve to the right? Well, as a beginner it's pretty simple. Any resistance training would shift that to the right, but for best results you want to be training up here in high force with your squats, your deadlifts, getting good technique and building strength there, and that will shift up to there. Now as you get more advanced, and it depends how you define advanced, but as you get more advanced you've got a bit more training history behind you, training gains get a bit more specific. So what does that mean? It means that if you're training up here, you'll increase just that part of the curve, maybe even decrease down there. So basically what does that say? You need to train all different parts of the curve. So we'll just explain what each part of the curve is and the best way to do it. So up here you've got high force, low velocity. So that's like your squats, put the box squat, because that's what we use the Gloucester on, your deadlifts. As you move down, probably the same box squats, deadlifts, but more explosive using a dynamic effort method. So it's still a decent weight on there, maybe 50-60% 1RM, but you're trying to produce it explosively. You need to understand you can't just produce force, you need to produce it fast. So 50-60% 1RM on box squat deadlift, nice and explosive. Then we move down, so probably your Olympic lifts, snatch, clean and jerks. Then as you come down, you're probably looking more at squat jumps, bench throws for the upper limb, hex bar jumps down a bit further down, a bit more explosive, and then we're into jumps, so plyos, slow stretch shortening cycle and fast stretch shortening cycle as you move down, and obviously just general speed work. So again, training specific, so important to understand is, which do I do? Well, this is what is a big part of strength and conditioning, is strength diagnosis. It's looking at an athlete, looking at all their scores on different exercises and find out what's their weakest link in a way, and then targeting that. So you might have someone who's really strong up here, but not as good down here, so that the curve's a bit lower there, so it's easy, they just work on that. On the other hand, you might have someone who is really explosive and fast but isn't very strong, so you just train up here. Try and think of it as a way to periodize it as well. So once you get to a decent level at everything, you're going to need to work at everything to slowly shift it across. So you might have 4 to 6 weeks focusing on producing force, 4 to 6 weeks working on dynamic effort, so moderate force but explosively, and then moving more into your power movements, and then your real explosive plyos and speed work. And then you'll come back, and what you'll find is the curve will kind of increase there, maybe drop off there, but then as you come work further down it'll go to there, and you'll kind of seesaw across, but the ultimate goal is to shift it to the right in the long term, and you'll end up being a more explosive and powerful athlete, which has been shown in research. More powerful athletes play at higher levels, so if you want to dominate the opposition you need to start incorporating the force velocity concept into your programming. Please, any questions, just chuck them in the comments below and we'll try and get back to them, maybe even feature a video on one of those. And please subscribe to us somewhere down here, there should be a link to subscribe, and you get more videos to help you take your performance to the next level.